Hey friends, my name is Mitch, and today we're doing a review of the Doolittle raid, Enemy Coast Ahead, by Jeremy White. So GMT Games, such a fantastic game. Now, Jeremy White also did Skies Above the Reich, released in 2018, which is also an excellent game. Very similar color scheme on some of the items too. So it seems in his game, he has a system to where he wants you to just start playing. Don't read the entire manual and memorize it. Just go play. And he does that by giving you handouts. So these are maps, but he gives you handouts. So if you're in the naval turn, you'll grab the naval turn. If you're in the approach check, doing the attack turn, then you'll just grab this one handout and sort of figure it out. And it summarizes all the rules really nice here. And then if you have a question about a part of it, you just open it up and you have this beautiful handout for the situation that you're in. So you can just start playing. You don't have to memorize the entire manual. And I mean, there's a literal ton of these. So it's kind of intimidating at first, but once you start playing and rolling along, it's nice because if I'm in the attack turn, I just have to have one thing. I don't need to have the manual, 5 handouts, 8 charts, lookup tables and things like that. So the manual is 61 pages, which is quite a bit of heft, but it's laid out well, a typical GMT style to where you have the major text on one side and then you'll have descriptive text on the inside for examples and things like that. So 61 pages, but again, you don't have to memorize it. You just immediately start playing. And he also posted on GMT site, I'll put a picture on the screen, a 113-page example of play. So he will take you from start all the way to finish for an example of play with detailed pictures and all the information that you need. So if you're kind of confused, you're like, okay, I'm in the naval phase, I'm supposed to move, but I'm not sure, you can go and look and find a detailed example of play. So cool. I mean, so much love and care is put into this game. You also have a scenario book that sort of eases you into all of the details. So it doesn't make you play the whole campaign. You just have a typical first scenario. Let's go and do the bombings, right? The attack of the first flight. And then the next scenario, let's do the same thing, but let's do it at night. So, and then you continue with that. So you'll have the same scenario using the same small little map, but he introduces a little more complexity on the next one, right? So then as starting on scenario 7, you'll start doing the flights. And there's a lot of things in this game. You have planning to where you sort of figure out and you sort of get your gear ready for your planes. You get your strategy together. And then you're going to go to the Navy phase to where you're getting all the ships and you're loading them with planes and you're moving them out. And all this time you have hazards that are coming up. So your planning could backfire on you. You could have just a poor plan. And then you don't realize it until you're flying in and all of a sudden you're intercepted by all these ships and things like that because people know you're coming. So it's just so much coolness. So easy of a level of complexity to start out with, and it gradually gets you into it. And the replayability is insane because the chit draws, for example, is not just like one chit, or it's not just one table. You'll have different chits for different things. So when you're starting out and you're just flying in for the first few miles, you're going to have a level 1 hazard. And then when you're getting closer to Japan, you're going to have a level 2 hazard. And then when you're getting closer, you're going to have alerts with planes coming in to stop you. And level 3 hazards, which are much worse, and your plane is breaking down the whole time. Like you'll have a compass failure, you'll have a weird engine noise and things like that. It's like feels so real and feels like you're actually there. Like you could hear the props on the plane going. You could feel the panic as this plane's not going to make it. And it's really personalized too. You don't just have wooden blocks or chits, you have pictures with names on them and of real people that actually fought during, sacrificed their lives during this war. So it just has a real gritty feel to it. And in addition, there's a thick narrative that's going on. It tells you a story. So within the beginnings of the scenarios, for example, you'll have a bunch of text that tells you a story. It tells you the story of what happened. And, Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle reached landfall several miles past the lighthouse. 10 miles out from the bay, he spotted a flight of Japanese fighters. So you have this narrative goes on, and it starts with a scenario, and it continues on in the rule book. It continues on with your outcomes to where you'll have a narrative, the damage to the plane or something like that. And then it even continues on to the debriefing manual where you figure out what happened. So you'll go here and you'll do Hap Arnold's assessment. If the Doolittle survives, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see. Doolittle's promoted to brigadier general and given the command of a department. Given the command of a department specializing in long-range carrier-based raids. Not willing to wait for a buildup of air assets in China, General Arnold is convinced his attack can and should be repeated as soon as possible. So you have this story that's going on. It's a real story. And the level of complexity is fairly high, but you're eased into it. You start playing. You're given baby steps to get to the big picture, and it makes it so cool. So you have the planning, and then you have the Navy phase. You'll have weather that can stop you. You have alerts going on. You'll have a task force. You'll have all of these boxes down here for handling issues. You'll have the big Navy moving, and as you're moving, you have different weather effects, and it affects the Navy. You may have an emergency takeoff. You could have deaths when they take off. They didn't take off successfully. And you have major engine failures during the flight over to Japan is detailed. You could have issues going on with there. The plane's acting weird. The plane goes down. The plane gets shot down. And then when you finally arrive to one of the 4 cities, you'll zoom into like this detailed map of this. And now you're trying to get to the factory, or you're trying to bomb the electric company. And you'll have all sorts of things here too. And it goes into a whole new game, like a little mini game. We have turns, and you have hazards. And then you'll have planes coming to intercept you, and all this stuff. So you'll have not one city, but you have 3 cities. And you have a night version too, to where you have the issues that would arise in a night raid. So maybe you're having problems spotting the factory. I can't spot it. It's now a 9 just to get in there, but during the day it was a 7 just to get in there. So, and that's another thing with the dice. It's not a bunch of dice to where you have to sit there and roll all day, but you do have to roll to get in stuff. Like if I need to attack the factory, for example, then I'm going to roll to get in there. But if I have a hazard, then I'm going to use a specific chit. Again, the chits are very specific. My hazard at night in Tokyo will be totally different than my hazards during the day, let's say in Kobe, right? So you have different chits for different cities for different times. It's very, very specific, and it's very, very real. And in addition to all of the complexity, what I was worried about was, okay, I'm going to have to look through 10,000 charts. I'm not big. I don't mind looking through 2 or 3 charts, but when it's a book of like 50 charts, and I'm having to go and break out of the narrative and look up chart after chart after chart after chart, I don't like doing that because it breaks me out of the story. And so Jeremy, what he did was he sort of simplified some of the minor things to where you don't have to do a lot of that. For example, let's say I have a fighter, and the fighter's coming in and he's intercepting me. I can roll 4 dice and just say, do I have a 6? If I have a 6, I shot him down. If I don't, then he damages me, right? Super simple. It's simple. It's quick. It's not something to where I'm going to have to go dig through 5 books in order to figure out what happened. And then when I get back, I've sort of lost my excitement about what we're doing, and my fear that I really think we're going to get shot down here. We're screwed. We got 1 plane. We got 2 planes down. The only plane surviving has a damage. Are we going to make it? And I don't like that break in immersion. And so Jeremy has sort of fixed that by making the minor quick things being actually quick. One simple roll of a dice, and you can determine it within 5 seconds what happened. And then you put your chit on, you move on to the next thing. So the game flow is there. The game flow is really there. And it's smooth. All of the pieces are integrated to where it all makes sense. It all flows properly. You have the weather and the wind conditions all make sense. They all flow. I don't have to reevaluate the weather every 5 minutes, which makes sense, right? The weather's not going to change in 5 minutes. So it makes sense. Everything makes sense. When I'm going to this area, maybe the weather's different. I'm on it, I've moved a long way. It's been 4 days. Maybe we need to reevaluate the weather at some point. And he integrates that. So again, it's the logic, it's the design of the game that's so perfect. The wind here is different than the wind here. But you do have a set of time, a time period where the wind stays the same, if that makes sense. So it's stuff like that. The flow of the game, the ease of getting into it, the complexity, the fact that you planned your whole thing out, and now I can reap the benefits or feel the disadvantages of poor planning. I have bombing planning. I can do things. So the planning, I can focus what I want to focus on, so I can have super specific bombing guys that are +3 bombing. That's what I want in this mission. I want +3 bombing. But I'm going to sacrifice things like maybe they didn't have enough training with night flying. Maybe they didn't have enough navigation training. What about fighting, opposing planes? Maybe they didn't have enough gunnery training. So it's a give and take for how you want to gear out your planes to do the mission, or how you want to plan everything out, which adds to your replayability. So the replayability is really, really here, because I want to come back. I mean, I'm done with a game, and you go to work the next day, and you're thinking, right? That's a sign of a good game. You're thinking at work. If I had added a Norden system, if I would have put armor plating on my plane, I think that we could have been successful. I think I lost because of these little things that I didn't do. Now I want to come back. The replayability. Now I want to come back and redo this, gear out everything, and fly it again, because I think that I can succeed this time, because now I know what to do. So you're going to pick it up. You're going to be thinking about it. You're going to be excited to grab this game and get it off the shelf. And I got this off Amazon for $35. I don't know about you guys, but the last time I had a solo game, a solitaire game, it was $100. But this one, I got a 16-page debriefing manual with thick, beautiful story. I got 61-page color manual. I got a 39-page scenario book with 10 scenarios and damn near endless replayability. I have maps upon maps upon maps, and more maps and more maps, and then I have all of these handouts that I can use to get specific info on all of this stuff for $35. That's nuts. Okay, and sorry, this is going to sound sappy, and I apologize in advance, but look at this. Watch this. So the game has it doesn't come with trays. You need trays. These are GMT standard trays. So I needed 2 trays, obviously, to fit in all the components. I put in all the components and my 2 trays, and the box lid fits on flush and perfect. Flush and perfect. It's like all of his love and care even went on to design the box height to be perfect for 2 trays and all of the components. It's everything about this game is exciting for me. Sorry, it's just one of my favorite games now. I really look forward to playing this again. It's hard to take this off the table. So anyway, as you can tell, I really enjoyed the Doolittle raid. Enemy coast ahead. Again, Jeremy White. If you ever watch this, sir, beautiful design, beautiful game. Anything you release in the future, I'm going to pre-order it within 10 seconds of finding it. So thank you again for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and I appreciate your time for watching.